I decided to take the hermit's approach to watching wildlife and stay in on my own at home at night. Well, not quite on my own, because lurking behind us in the darkness is Lawrence B, an expert in the creatures of the night. Lawrence, what are you doing in my garden?
Well, if you'd like to come down here, we can go and have a look and see what I've been up to.
Right, okay, I'll follow you. So here we are in the depths of the wilderness, or my back garden. Lawrence, you put a sheet on my lawn.
Yep, we've got some white sheeting down the lawn, and I'm just setting up a light here.
Right.
Which is going to hopefully attract some moths when we get it switched on shortly.
Moths.
So we use a very special type of bulb, which is a mercury vapour lamp, which gives off a sort of bluish light, but it's an attractive wavelength for the moths. And once the thing gets warmed up and running, then we should find that we've got moths coming down to the light, fluttering around, then hopefully landing on the sheet, and we can have a closer look at them. And the egg cartons, the egg trays there.
Yeah, what are they for?
Are for the moths when they get a bit fed up and a bit confused. They can hide away under the cartons, and they're useful to have there, so we can look at them underneath them later on to see what's remained.
Right. Okay. So is that it, or do we need to?
That's it. All I need to do now is switch the power on, and
we're away.
And we're away. Yeah.
Why do they like that particular wavelength of light?
We don't really know. It's just the fact that they're. It seems to be more attractive than an ordinary household bulb. It's giving off a different frequency of light, and the moths seem to be more attracted to the mercury vapour. Although household bulbs on a warm evening will still attract a few things in.
Well, everyone sees them, don't they, fluttering around there?
They do, yeah, they do,
Lights
yes. And you see we're getting some activity already, some very small things coming.
Now, you don't think it's a particularly brilliant night, do you, for moths tonight?
Well, September is a bit iffy because the nights get cool down quite quickly, and what moths like is nice warm sultry conditions. They need a temperature of about 15 or 16 degrees centigrade to be at their optimum, really. But we'll see how it goes. And we're in the middle of the city here, and there isn't a great deal of breeze, which might help.
We're just off the Cowley Road, actually, aren't we?
Yeah, we are.
Lawrence, which has been my home for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
We've got a moth up there on the willow. Can you see it? It's just fluttering around. There he is.
Yeah.
Any idea what that moth is, Lawrence?
No.
There's lots and lots of different kinds of moths, aren't there? It's very difficult.
Not until it comes in.
Right, and when it lands you'll be able to tell, because a lot of moths are very brown, aren't they?
They are, but hopefully we might see some with some slightly brighter colours this evening.
How many different kinds of moths are there in Britain?
Well, we're talking about into the thousands, between 1 and 2,000, but many of those are what we call micro moths, which are the really tiny ones. And entomologists, moth people, tend to split them into the micro moths and the macros. And I'm afraid the macros are my area of interest. The micros are really another world altogether.
Difficult to identify, I can imagine. I mean, you see those.
You need to specialise.
Thousands of them, they all look the same, don't they?
They do.
So we probably don't actually know how many moths there are in Britain, do we?
It's difficult. I mean, another interest I have is in spiders, and we're finding new species of spider, not only to Britain but to science, very occasionally. And so we don't know exactly what sort of range of creatures, particularly the invertebrates, that we have.
Inhabit the night. British night.
Night particularly,
It's getting a bit chilly, isn't it? That's not good, is it, the moths?
Not good at all, really. Oh, there's one, quite a large one, just flopped down there a minute ago.
Oh, has he come in? Should we go and have a look?
He's just on the edge of the...
Is he? Cool. Can I have one of these lamps to watch them out in the garden? They're great. And we've got a little one sat there that's very sort of just minding its own business.
A caddisfly rather than a moth. You see, it's got very long antennae there.
Yeah.
And it's the wings are not quite transparent, but they're much more transparent than moths.
So what actually is the difference between butterflies and moths? It's difficult to say, isn't it?
Well, it is, because they are actually both members of the same family. The family is the Lepidoptera, and that means scale wing. And both moths and butterflies, the colour and patterning on the wings comes from the arrangement of scales that you find there. It's a difference that I think we have actually devised, moths generally fly at night and butterflies generally fly during the day. Another difference is in the antennae, that butterflies have the tip of the antennae is swollen, a clubbed antennae if you like. Moth antennae are a whole range. They can be just straight and simple, or they can be very look almost like small feathers. So the shape and the design of moth antennae can be variable.
Now I've tried to plant up my garden with plants which are attractive to insects and which I know that birds like. For example, Cactoniaster behind us, the berries and things. Yeah. What would I plant for moths?
For moths you need some, well, night-scented stock is one of the classic ones because you get a lovely perfume, a scent from that in the evening. Evening primrose, tobacco plants, honeysuckle, anything that's got quite a strong scent.
I've got some of that. I've got some honeysuckle over there. It's lurking in the bushes. It's been taken over by my thistles, and which I leave those for the goldfinches actually. Yeah, indeed. Yeah. But it's sort of swamped over there a little bit. But hopefully it will come up again in the spring.
Yeah. The thing is that although moths aren't feeding a great deal, they will take food, and any flowers that are providing nectar, which are fairly strong scented, then they'll attract the moths in.
Do they like the buddleia as well, like the butterflies?
Not the same sort of way, no. I mean, you might get some of the day-flying moths attracted to the buddleia. Right. But it's the scent, I think, as much as anything, that they're able to pick up on.
The right time of day.
Right time of day, and some moths are very sensitive to the sort of the perfume of plants or whatever. As we were saying earlier, the males can pick up the scent of a female, the pheromones, for up to a mile away, and so they've got very, very sensitive senses of. It's a chemical sense more than a sort of just smelling. It's more than that, and obviously the plants that we've been talking about will be producing that sort of scent for them. Yeah.
So they're really they're quite sensitive creatures, really, moths, aren't they?
I suppose
they like the night, they like flowers, they like scent.
Yep.
The females attract the males with their perfume,
That's
no
right,
less.
yes. Very strong.
Ooh, hello.
There's another yellow annoying come in.
Yeah, they're nice, aren't they? They're quite dramatic. Got quite a few flipping.
There's some that you can, most of them are difficult to identify in flight, but yellow underwings, if you're close up to them, you can actually see the yellow of the hind wing there.
Okay.
As they're fluttering about.
Louis, you're not really allowed to eat the moss, love. Much as you'd like to. Come on, Louis. You can't eat them. Lie down. Oh boy. So this is a willow beauty?
Yes.
And does he like willow?
Well, the caterpillars will feed on willow.
Okay, do you think that might be something to do with the fact that I planted that willow tree in my garden?
Could possibly be something to do with it, yes.
Might it?
Yes, oh yes.
Yeah.
There's a pretty little thing. Now I have to have a look at the book to find out what that was. But it's quite a...
shiny.
Quite mottled, grey and white and black.
You can see sort of silvery bits on it.
Yeah.
Again, if you leant against or sat against a tree trunk, he'd disappear.
That would disappear completely. Yeah. Absolutely superb camouflage.
But very pretty when he's sitting on your finger.
Yeah. And some of them are very accommodating. Some will not sit on your finger, but some.
Yeah, he's
like
quite relaxed.
Yeah, he's quite happy there.
He or she. He hasn't got much antennae, so maybe.
Can't see. They'll be folded back around the head.
Ah. Okay. So here's a moth you made earlier. You bought it with you from your garden. You caught it in your garden in Witney.
That's right. Yeah.
And it's a poplar hawk moth.
That's right. It's a moth one normally sees around, I suppose, in May, June time, along with some of the other hawk moths. They're the largest group of moths we have in this country in terms of size. The poplar hawk is, as well as being associated with the poplar tree, with the caterpillars feeding on it, it's quite a common moth, I suppose, really. Whenever you set your light up on a good evening in June or July, you're likely to get one or two of these coming in if you've got poplar trees close by.
He's absolutely spectacular,
Yeah.
isn't he? His wings held out there. Is that the normal posture he'd hold his wings in?
Yes. You can see the hind wings just protruding underneath the forewings in a sense, so it's a bit confusing. These large wings here are the forewings and the hind wings are there, and if you can catch the brown colouring on the hind wings there, that's a common feature of all moths, like the yellow underwings we were seeing, some sort of colouring on the hind wings acting as that.
Now, you brought this one with you, but is this the kind of moth we might see in the garden?
Oh yes, absolutely, yeah.
If we wait a bit longer, Lawrence?
We could possibly see it if we stuck around for another 2 or 3 hours perhaps.
2 or 3 hours. We have to go and have a snooze in between, I think.
Yeah.
It's getting very cold.
It's getting cool, yeah.
We've seen about, what do you think, 7
I would
or
think
8?
we've seen about 7 or 8 different species, yeah. Which doesn't surprise me. I think if we did stay up
all night
into the early hours, we might get a few more coming in. But temperature is such a critical factor with moths that when you're getting clear skies, as we will be doing shortly, the temperature drops and the moths just don't fly.
Because they're too cold.
They're too cold. They need the warmth to give them enable them to warm their muscles up to actually fly, using up a lot of energy just in flying, so they need that warmth to get them moving in the first place.
Now, it's been great fun coming out into my garden with your special lamp to attract the moths down onto the sheet. Can people do this without the
you can do it,
the mercury lamp?
Yeah, with just an ordinary household bulb in a sense. Moths are attracted to just a 200-250 watt household bulb. If you have a light outside your back door overlooking the garden, it may well be that you've already had moths attracted to it. So it's always worth going out on a warm evening and looking at what's around. There may just be things resting on the walls if you've got an outside light. You can put sheets out on the ground and hang a light above it, as we've done here. You're not going to get as many in terms of the variety of species, but you'd certainly attract some things in, I'm sure, yeah.
And how can people identify them? Because they're not very easy to identify,
They
are
aren't, no. I mean, some of the more obvious ones are not too difficult, like the poplar hawk, but you can get hold of very good identification guides. They do cost a little bit of money, but I think probably one of the best is Bernard Skinner.
Bernard Skinner's one of the best?
Yeah, the colour identification guide to British moths, and he includes all the macro moths in that particular volume.
Right, so that's the one to get if you really want to know your moths.
If you want to get into it, that's the one you need, yes.
Got that, Louis? You're going to put him back in his box and take him home?
We'll take him back and release him back there, he should be okay.
Thank you for bringing him to visit.
Come on.
Should we go inside and get a hot chocolate?
I think that might be a good idea.
So, Lawrence, that was the last time we met was in my garden.
That's right, yeah.
Off the Cowley Road in the dead of night.
Yes.
We were looking for moths. And today we're up at Hill End, which is near Cumnor.
Yep.
And it's a field study centre, isn't it?
That's it. We're run by the Education Department of the local authority, and we have day groups and residential groups of school children coming to stay here and learn about the environment. Environmental education, that's what we're all about.
So I'm here today learning about environment, learning about wildlife.
Yeah.
And we're looking for spiders.
Spiders is the best time of year. I mean, this time, late September, early October, we get some of the really big orb web spinners in your gardens and here at Hill End as well.
You're telling me about a spider that lives on the south coast and
That's
is
right,
marching up into the rest of Britain.
Its distribution is extending, certainly. Over the past 5 years, we've been getting records from further inland, and now this year I've heard recently one from Suffolk. It's up into the Thames estuary, and I would like to think that eventually we might get it up in this part of the world in Oxfordshire. Shouldn't be too long, I would think.
And is that because of global warming?
It's probably climate change which is the main reason, yes. It's a spider you find a lot in France. Very distinctive, you can't really mistake it for anything else.
And there are 635
thereabouts, yes.
species of spider in Britain.
Yeah.
635. That's a lot of spiders, isn't it?
It is, and but worldwide, I mean, we've only got a very small proportion of the numbers worldwide. It's one of the largest group of animals in terms of different species that there is in the world. In this country we've got about 33 families, and each family of spiders have their own characteristics, their own lifestyle and way of catching prey and so on and so forth.
So to put that into context,
Yeah.
we're talking about, it's like there's one species of human
Yeah.
in Britain, and there's 635 different species of spider which only breed with their particular type of spider, and
Yep.
they're all living their little lives,
Yep.
doing their particular thing, their own particular
Yeah.
habits,
Yes. Yes,
and
that's right.
they're completely distinct.
Absolutely. I mean, they will not interbreed. It's quite a complicated process, but it's like a lock and a key system. The key being the male palp, and it will only fit in the
Okay,
the
so now we're
female
talking
epigyn.
about spider sex, aren't
Yes.
we? Tell me about spider sex,
Right.
Lawrence.
Well, that's,
Seeing as we're on the subject.
well, it's rather an odd process, because the male spider produces a very small web. He spins a very small web and deposits a drop of sperm onto that web,
Right.
and absorbs it into his palps. Or
Right, which are kind of
feelers.
little feet on the front.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're not antennae, they are palps. So they're different. They aren't used for sensing, but their function is to, in the mating process.
Especially for that,
Yeah.
they're kind of little, like little hands, really.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, with an adult male spider, you can usually recognise them with the naked eye because their palps are swollen at the tip. They look rather like mini boxing gloves, if you like. And they absorb the sperm, and then the palp is inserted into the female epigyne, and the transfer of sperm takes place like that. So it's a two-stage process.
Okay, right. Well, I'm not going to go there
No.
with any human metaphors for that.
But the thing is, it is this key and lock.
Okay.
The spider, whatever species it might be, the palp will only fit into the epigyne of the female of the same species. So you can't get this interbreeding. And they're very, very complex structures.
And that's how they remain separate
Yeah.
and distinct, those different
Yeah.
species.
Yeah.
Now, we're going to have a look for some spiders, aren't we,
Yes.
today? It's been raining,
Yes.
and we all know what
Not
spiders'
ideal.
webs look like in the rain, which is absolutely enchanting,
Yeah.
but it's not perfect weather for spiders, is
No.
it?
We've had wind as well, and so the webs that I would have hoped to have found are going to be either washed away or blown away. What I intend to do is have a look at this tree
We're
behind
going
us.
to test your spider finding ability.
Well,
It's the perfect time of year, isn't it,
It's
Lawrence?
good. It is good, and you'll certainly have them in the garden at this time of the year.
And we get them in the house at this time of
Yes,
year. Huge
indeed,
spiders in my
indeed,
house.
yes.
I reckon I've got special Oxfordshire spiders in my. My dad used to call the spiders that live near us Reading specials
Oh, I see. Right.
when I was a kid, and I reckon
Yeah.
I've got some Oxfordshire specials. Right, what's this?
This is a very sophisticated method of collecting spiders out of foliage of branches of trees. And if we go over to this one, for instance, I can just demonstrate how we use it. You can use a white sheet, you can use an upturned umbrella, but you just hold it underneath some branches and give the branches a bit of a tap. Lots of raindrops falling out at the moment. And basically you're just disturbing any creatures that are living there. And I think we've got one or two spiders already. But
Okay, they're pretty small for our camera to pick up, so we haven't got specialist equipment here, but I think hopefully people can see them zooming around on the sheet there. We've got,
This is a harvestman. They're very closely related to spiders, but they have only one part to the body, have 8 legs, although that's only got 5 or 6, it's probably lost some, but one part to the body as opposed to 2 parts for the spider.
Why have spiders got 8 legs, Lawrence?
Why have you got 2 legs?
I don't know.
Well then.
What sort of answer is that?
Well,
Any idea, Mr.
no idea.
25 years of doing spider research?
No idea at all.
No idea at all.
Why
It's just
spiders have 8 legs and insects have 6 legs. It's just the way we group them. Money spiders are one of the, well, we call them money spiders, but they're the biggest family of spiders we have in this country. And they're all these tiny little black ones. And the superstition is if one lands on your shoulder, you're supposed to be, win the football pools or something like that, or the
Millionaire.
lottery.
So if you want to be on Who Wants to Be a
Well,
Millionaire, so take a few
spiders with you.
That's the idea.
But what an interesting thing about the linifids, even though they're so small, one can see the evidence on this time of year sometimes, because the way these spiders move around, not only the linifids, but a lot of the younger ones, the smaller ones of the smaller baby spiders, if you like, the way they move around is by spinning silk and then allowing the breeze to pick that silk up, and they drift in the breeze. It's called ballooning. And when we see gossamer on the fields, this is basically lots of these tiny little spiders producing silk, and it just gets spread across the fields. But you do need the right conditions, a slight breeze and the right sort of temperature. But given those conditions, you can get this gossamer over the grass, and it derives from goose summer, meaning feathers over the fields.
That's lovely, isn't that lovely? Goose summer.
And talking about them ballooning, I was lucky enough some years ago to go up in a hot air balloon, and I was seeing, this was about 1,500 feet, and I was seeing spiders sort of drifting past me as we were up in the balloon.
Sort of miles up.
Yeah.
Apparently, invertebrates, insects and spiders will sort of cross continents like that.
Yeah, spiders will certainly. I mean, they cross the channel, and this is why we've had this, when we're talking about this thing which has been spreading north, has just had a foothold on the south coast. Over in France, you find them all over the place, and it's obviously come across in the past and just managed to hang on, and now with this climate change it's now beginning to move north in this country. But they will balloon, they can get up to quite high levels in the
upper atmosphere.
Well, not in the upper atmosphere, but certainly the height of weather balloons. They've been picked up on weather balloons when they've been brought down, and they can drift for quite some time.
People do have a lot of phobias about spiders. Why do you think that is?
It goes back to medieval times, I would think. In those days, an English name for a spider, or a common name for a spider, was attercop, which means poison head. And it had a sort of fairly bad press in those days, as opposed to things like bumblebees, which did good. They made, or the honeybees made honey. Bumblebees were seen to be providing pollen and so on. But I mean, the honeybee is particularly a good insect, as opposed to a bad invertebrate or insect like a spider. But even so, people didn't kill them, and they don't do it today. They're frightened of spiders, but they don't go so far as to kill them because it's unlucky to kill them.
Right.
And in olden times, they used to use spider's web for stemming blood flow if you had an injury, and they would use the web to bind up the injury.
Then,
yeah. And I've also heard or read about them being eaten
Eaten?
to cure people of certain diseases, but
Eaten?
yes, eaten, yes.
I don't think we can condone eating spiders on the Oxford Channel. Is it spiders that specially get a gift of a fly to give to their
Some
loved one?
species do, yes. Some species will wrap.
Sounds very romantic.
We'll catch a fly and wrap it in silk.
Wrap it up in
and then
silk.
Present
Wrap it up in silk.
And then present it to the female
Give it to the female.
to prevent them, as the male, being eaten.
Oh, to prevent them from being eaten, so they get the females full up.
Yes.
They fill up her belly with a silken fly.
Something like that, yeah. I mean,
I think that's a great story. Spiders are really charismatic, actually, aren't they?
Some species,
underrated.
Some species will do that. Others will. There's a spider called a spitting spider,
Right.
which will
Spit at you.
Not at you personally, but it will spit at its prey. It
Oh, right.
produces gum, threads of sticky gum, and it will actually transfix its prey to whatever surface it's on, and the prey is stuck. It can't move, and then the spider can quite leisurely go up and start its meal.
What? So it spits at the prey,
Yeah.
and then sort of blobs a blob of glue onto it, basically, and then it goes.
Well,
so it's really sort of sci-fi stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
People have done experiments, haven't they, where they've put spiders on various drugs and got them to spin webs.
Yes, yes.
What were the results of that? LSD didn't do much for them.
I mean, I've heard of it, but I don't know the results of that.
I think they spun webs really fast on caffeine.
Possibly, yes. I don't know.
But,
yeah. I mean, there's been a lot of interest in spider silk because it is extremely strong stuff, size for size. I mean, if one had a silk the thickness of steel cable, it would be stronger than anything else in the world of that sort of size. They have been thinking of using spider silk for bulletproof vests, things like that, as a sort of protection. Obviously in quite a few layers of it. But the problem is getting spiders to produce enough silk.
And that, okay, because it's very strong, but you can't put a spider into a factory farm.
Well,
I suppose.
exactly. You can't produce silk like you do with silk moths. It's
Right.
because they're not social animals, I mean, moths aren't, but they obviously.
So you
are
can't
keeping
keep
them.
loads and loads of them
No,
together, is what
no.
you mean by.
And
Okay.
of course, I mean, silk moths will feed on, I don't know, is it mulberry trees? Spiders feed on other insects, so you've got to have a fairly good food supply to keep that number of spiders required. Keep them going, keep them alive, keep them producing more and more silk.
The idea of a spider farm would fill a lot of people with horror, wouldn't it?
Yes.
But you'd like it, wouldn't you,
Well,
Lawrence?
it'd be good. It'd be good fun.
You
Yeah.
are Spider-Man of Oxford.
Well,
Thank you very much for
Okay.
talking to us today.
No
I think we
problem.
should go and look for a few more spiders.
yes, I think so. Yeah.